YouTube. I'm going to be answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Also, if you guys will want your own natal chart reading, astrology, okay, so natal chart reading, a progressed natal chart reading, or a synastry reading, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below. You guys can send me an email and we will go from there. Welcome to everyone in the chat. How are you guys doing? Hi, Mary. Hi, Concerned. Hi, Sundog. What should we talk about today? Have a good evening, Mary. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to all the people joining. What should we talk about today? What do you guys want to know about? Astrology, metaphysics, your natal charts, life. Welcome, welcome, welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Hey Mike, how are you doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Thanks for the likes, you guys. What should we talk about today? Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Okay, so for the question about the 12th house, honestly, I have a whole 12th house playlist because there's just so much to say. So check out my 12th house playlist. And if you consider yourself a 12th house person, how to stay grounded as a 12th house person, okay? Because the 12th house is fast. Hey Esperanza, how are you doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. You said a Scorpio season bring out the truth. Usually, it's also that kind of year. It's an 8 year, so a lot of things are coming to the surface. Plus, Pluto's at 29 degrees of Capricorn. Tomorrow's going to be entering Aquarius. God bless. Hey, Anita, how are you doing? How are you guys doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. Feel free to comment below, and I will go in order. So, 12th house, yes, it's a lot because you're psychic, okay? And the thing is, if you are not psychic and you're not tuned into the psychic realms, you're gonna have a hard time understanding the 12th house, which is why most people talk about the 12th house in a negative way, okay? But the 12th house is you are psychic, you are connected to the other side. So it's all about honing in your psychic gifts and abilities as a 12th house person, learning how to close your aura, okay? So basically, people don't siphon off of your energy is basically what that is, okay? Because as a 12th house person, you bring through a lot of healing energy, a lot of light energy, okay? It's that healing energy. But what happens is you tend to merge to other people and then you're purging for those people, okay? Merging and purging. So it's a matter of figuring out who are you, okay? What is your identity? Strengthening your solar plexus chakra so you can develop basically strong, like spiritual strength, right? Because the aura tends to go outward, right? You want to have a strong aura. And to do that, check out my video of how to stay grounded as a 12th house person and even my psychic gifts and abilities videos, okay? So I have that in my metaphysical playlist if you want to get in tune with your psychic gifts and abilities. Hey everyone, hey Concern, hey Lamia, how are you guys doing? Hey YT Social, welcome. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. You said 1777 Pluto went into Aquarius. Yeah, so if you guys want to see like what kinds of things might potentially take place now, you always want to look at the previous transit and see what was going on during that period of time. It'll give you some insight, okay? You said, so hey Sundog, you said, do you know anything about moon? I'm not sure. That is something in Vedic astrology, so I don't know what that is. I'm going to screenshot it though because I am curious to learn. So I'll check it out after the live. How are you guys doing? What else? You said, how would a Pisces Mars be the most productive? You have to force yourself to be productive. So here's the thing, okay? If you have any of these oppositional energies to the earth plane, which is usually Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer, okay? Look at the oppositional energy and how do they act, okay? So Pisces, you want to look at how does Virgo act down here, okay? So it's all about perfecting a craft and focusing on that craft, right? And seeing how can you ground it into this earth plane. So Pisces wants to do everything, right? When you want to do everything, nothing gets done. That was one of the best business things that I have ever learned in my entire life, okay? If you're selling to everybody, you're selling to nobody, right? So same thing for anything. If you're trying to do everything, you're not really doing anything because you can't have your energy spread all over the place, right? So as a Pisces Mars, obviously you have the free will to do what you want, but my recommendation in general, even if you are a Piscean person or a 12th house person or a Neptunian person, pick the thing that you resonate most with, okay? Focus on that thing and perfect that craft, okay? Because those are the things that thrive down here on this earth plane, okay? Because it's Virgo, Capricorn, and also Taurus. Hey, Lord, how are you doing? You said you like something profound and simple at the same time. You said you have Mars and Pisces in the 12th house, so that's probably going to resonate with you, okay? Because Mars and Pisces is very much all over the place. What I will say for 12th house and Piscean energy is the gift for them is the fact that they have that strong third eye chakra, okay? So you have a strong visualization. It's just a matter of taking your dreams and your visions and your goals and figuring out how can you ground them into this physical plane and into this physical reality. Exactly, pick one thing. Hey Michael, how are you doing? I'm answering astrology questions. Let me just go back up. I'll get you guys in the bottom in just a second. Mars conjunct Neptune, so interesting. So the theme today so far is Neptune, Pisces, 12th house, okay? Mars conjunct Neptune, so here's the thing. When you guys have aspects, you always want to see which of the energies are you going into. Are you going into more of the Mars or are you going more into the Neptune, okay? Because Mars and Neptune conjunction, right? The thing is with this energy is like, it can be detrimental if you're spending more time in the Neptune where you're dreaming, right? There's a whole concept of dreaming. Oh my gosh, when it's like this, or, you know, when I have this much money, or when I have this ambition, or I see myself doing this, right? So that's that Neptunian energy, right? It's gonna dream and that's fine. It's nice to dream. But the thing is you want to see how can you ground it into this physical plane and into this physical reality. So then the Mars, you know, this can turn out to be like a very good aspect, right? Because if you take Mars and you act on the dream, well, then you're manifesting left, right, and center, okay? So it's all about figuring out your energy and how does your energy fit into the Earth's energy, okay? So it's like if you're Neptunian, Piscean, 12th house type of person, you're more of a dreamer, right? You're going out of body, okay? And that's a form of escapism. And a lot of the time I find that the karma for this energy is actually to master the material plane, okay? Which is kind of ironic, right? Because they're usually super spiritual. Did I ever experience any paranormal activity? All the time. I'm literally always in like the astral realms. You said Mercury conjunct Neptune. So that's another one of the energies, okay? That's one of those crown chakra energies, like overly crowny. I call it crowny, right? When you are in the astral plane, when you're in the astral realms, okay? So here's the thing. When you have Mercury conjunct Neptune, well, you're going to be super psychic, right? Because again, you are in the psychic realms. You're a little bit out of body. That's Mercury conjunct Neptune or any sort of Mercury and Neptune aspect, okay? You're psychic, you're intuitive, you are connected to the other side, but now it's a matter of seeing what can you do with that, right? Because like Mercury conjunct Neptune can sometimes struggle when it comes to focusing on anything in the physical realm, right? When it comes to learning, you might struggle because again, you could be an overly crown chakra type of person, right? Where it's like, you know, you're supposed to focus on a task and it's like you're going off into the crown, right? And it's like, unfortunately, down here on this earth plane, those energies are a little bit of a struggle if you think about it, because it's more feminine energy leaning, right? So it's like you want to take that energy and see how can you ground it into this physical plane and into this physical reality is basically what it is, okay? With any sort of Neptunian aspects, any sort of like, again, 12th house, Piscean energy. So it's like you're psychic, but at the same time, you could struggle maybe in school. You could struggle when it comes to learning. You know, when it comes to reading, it's like you can start at the beginning of the page, and by the time you get to the end of the page, you don't even know what you read because you went off into the ethers. Do you know what I mean? Or even like when you're listening to someone, let's say it's like a professor or whatever, you're in school, it's like, again, you're going off into the ethers. It's a dreamer type of energy, right? So it's like you want to take this energy, right, and see how can you benefit from it is basically what that is, okay? You said that's so you with the reading? Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Welcome to all the people joining. I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, and questions about your natal charts. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Okay, I'm just going back up to see what you guys were saying up here. Give me 1 second, actually, you guys. All right, I am back. You said, can I tell you through my intuition what your rising sign is? You don't have the exact date of birth. You're a Taurus sun and, okay, you're a Taurus sun. Okay, YT social, here's the thing. I can't guess based off of that, right? We need a little bit more information to see what's going on, right? So to figure out your rising sign, do you have like first of all, do you have like an approximate time frame when that could be, okay? Also, to figure out your rising sign is going to tell you your 7th house, and then it's going to tell you your 4th house, and then it's going to tell you your 10th house, okay? So it's going to take a little bit more time to figure out what it is. You know what I mean? And also you can figure out your rising sign based off of your Saturn. So if you have had your Saturn return, so you're over the age of 27, well, then it might be a little bit easier to guess the rising sign based on what was going on during that period of time. Or in general, right? Like let's say you had like major life events, you know, at a certain age, like anytime there's like a Saturn cycle that's taking place, that's going to tell us your rising sign as well, okay? So yeah, just based off that information, can't tell you much. But if you go a little bit deeper and you explore, or maybe if you look like a certain celebrity, let's say, sometimes you can figure out the rising sign that way as well. You can look up their chart, see what is their rising sign to kind of get an idea if it matches with yours as well. So those are a few ways that you can try to figure out the rising sign. You said you have a very good imagination for painting, but when you paint, it's so hard to focus. Exactly. So that's something that you're going to have to master, okay? If you want to thrive down here on this earth plane. That's the thing. That's why Piscean people, 12th house people, and Neptunian people struggle down here on this earth plane, okay? Because of the fact that they are more in the crown chakra. You're creative, which is amazing, right? Hey T, how are you doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal chart, so feel free to comment below. Okay, so it's just a matter of figuring out your strength and seeing how can you hone that strength in. Do you know what I mean? So like knowing that it's difficult for you to focus, right? It's like this is something that you can work on. That's the way that I see things in this life in general. And that's the way that I see astrology, right? So it's like you can see what is your strength and what is your weakness and how can you balance it within yourself to get the outcome that you want, right? Because the thing is with Piscean, 12th house, Neptunian types of energies, a lot of the time what happens is you're so gifted, right? Because you have that third eye, you have the manifestation potential, you have the visualization potential, you have the creativity, but it's like you don't know how to direct the energy. And same thing with Mars and Pisces. So when you don't know how to direct your own energy, you're going to attract energy vampires into your life who see that within you and then kind of grab you energetically, right? Bind you in one way, shape, or form. So you're manifesting for them, right? And you don't want that to happen because then you're not on your path, right? You're doing, you know, you're using your gift for another person, okay? Whether it's consciously or unconsciously. So that's kind of how it works. I'm just going back up to see what else you guys were saying up here. You said Pluto transit in the 12th house of Capricorn. Yes, you're going to have a lot of subconscious, unconscious things coming to the surface. Now, the thing is, the Pluto transit is a long transit, right? So you're not going to feel it every day. It's over an extended period of time. So by the end, you'll be like, wow, that was a lot. You know what I mean? But while you're in it, I mean, you're in it. So there's nothing else that you can do. You're welcome, Mike. You said, what does Pluto going into Aquarius mean for fixed signs? You're Scorpio rising. Here's the thing. I know people always kind of focus on that. Yes, you're going to go through change, but like everyone's always going through change. You know what I mean? It's more accurate if you look to see where do you have Aquarius in your chart. Okay, so if you're a Scorpio rising, probably your 4th house is in Aquarius, unless you have an interception. So let me know if your 4th house is in Aquarius. You also have Mars and Pisces in the 12th house. So exactly, you'll struggle with basically everything that I mentioned, right? In terms of figuring out how to hone the energy, because Pisces is vast. And a lot of the time, Pisces and even 12th house unconsciously are looking to be led, right? But if somebody else is leading you and guiding you and kind of, you know, telling you what to do, you're not living in your sovereignty. And then you get looped back into another lifetime. That's basically what happens there. Let's see what else you guys saying in here. Insight on 29 degrees in midheaven in Sag in the 10th house. So you don't get out of the 29th degree until you master it, okay? And you have it in Sag and it's in the 10th house. Okay, well, that's your midheaven overall, okay? So when it comes to work, when it comes to career, it needs to have Sagittarius undertones connected to it, okay? So it could be teaching, for example, okay? It could be, let's say, a motivational speaker. It could be a travel blog. It could be, you know, a professor. You go off and do your PhD. It could be this, okay? It could be a personal trainer. But it's basically like rooted in teaching in one way, shape, or form, okay? Teaching something, you know, so whether that's like a dance instructor or a yoga instructor, or let's say you're an actual teacher, right, for elementary students or whatever. So things like this, okay, when you have Sagittarius midheaven, and it's at 29 degrees, so it's like it's karmic, right? You probably need to be seen too. Like a lot of the time you'll see Sag in something public, right? Because it's Sag, you know, they're here to interact basically with people, and it's usually something to do with the higher mind, the philosophies, these types of things. So it could be like a philosophy teacher or professor, or maybe you come up with your own belief system, you know, because Sag is very good at convincing other people of what they believe. Thanks for the likes, you guys. Yes, if you guys want to like the live, double tap the screen, obviously, if you so choose to. Thank you. I'm just going back up. I'll get you guys in the bottom in just a second. I'm just going in order. Let's see what else are you guys saying up here. Neptune at 27 degrees Sag. I need to look up the galactic center, and then you said in the second house. So you always dream about money, Esperanza. Oh my gosh, when I have this much money, or when I get this, or when I get that. So again, you know, thank you for the likes, you guys. You guys are awesome. So again, you have the strong visualization factor. You just have to act on it, is basically what it is, okay? That's the tricks of the trade with Neptune, is pairing the action along with the dream and then being consistent, right? Those are the things that thrive down here. Unfortunately, it's just the way that it is. It's part of the game. You have to learn the earth plane and the way that things work down here, right? So if you're more prone to going off into the dreaming and daydreaming, and it could be like this, it could be like that, figure out how can you ground that, right? It's all about pairing the action with the visualization. What would you like to know about Mars? You have Saturn in Aquarius in the 8th house. Okay, so you're a millennial, and then, okay, so Saturn in Aquarius is the subset of the generation. So you and the other people in that 3-year bracket basically got restricted in the mind, okay? So a lot of these people, you know, again, Saturn matures after the age of 35. So a lot of these people, probably the ideas that you had when you were younger, okay, are going to be things that you bring through in the future now to come. Do you know what I mean? As we go into Pluto and Aquarius, probably. Okay, Saturn and Aquarius, the energies are going to be more aligned with you and your thoughts. Because the thing is, Aquarius is 10 to 15 years ahead of their time, right? Traditionally in astrology. These days, the frequency of the planet is higher, so maybe it's like 2 months ahead of your time. But regardless, it's like when you were younger, you probably had all of these like amazing ideas, but it wasn't the time, you know, because it was very like dense energetically, okay? Back in the day. And then Saturn in the 8th house is intense. So you get restricted in the area of intimacy, in the area of vulnerability, your emotions, basically anything to do with the sacral chakra, okay? So you're basically here to master the sacral chakra with the 8th house. And then you could also have mediumship abilities as well. Hey everyone, how you guys doing? Okay, said Libra risings, what can you expect with the Pluto in the 5th house Aquarius transit? So first of all, okay, the Pluto transit takes a longer period of time, okay? So you're not gonna like feel it overnight. You'll see at the end, you know, probably everything that took place, right? But through the actual transit itself, you don't really feel it because you're in it. Do you know what I mean? And it's Pluto, it's slow, it's over an extended period of time. So going through the 5th house, Pluto in the 5th house. You can check out my Pluto in the 5th house video. For any of the transits, you guys can check out the videos that I have. Like, even though it's for the natal chart, you can apply that to the transit as well, okay? If you want more information. But in a nutshell, Pluto going through the 5th house is going to affect the inner child. It's going to affect your love, dating, and relationships. And it's going to affect children, right? If you have children of your own, for example, okay? So, what does this mean? Well, for example, when it comes to love, dating, and relationships, when Pluto is transiting your 5th house, you're not going to be someone that's like, you know, just casually dating. Like, you know, in your dating and your relationships and like your love, right? You know, certain shadows might come to the surface. For example, you might become possessive. You might take this area very seriously. You might be looking for a mind, body, spirit connection, okay? That's Pluto transiting the 5th house. It could be this. It could also be change and transformation when it comes to your creativity, or like intense healing of the inner child, right? Or if you have children, you're going to be probably healing through the children, because usually people are healing through their children, right? Their inner child through their children. So it's one of these variations in a nutshell. You're welcome. I'm just going back up. How can you deal with the unhealthy addictions that come with a strong 8th house and 12th house energy? Okay, so here's the thing, you guys. This is just my own opinion. But addictions, okay, first of all, let's look at addictions, right? Addictions are usually connected to your sacral chakra, first of all, okay? So the sacral chakra has addictions in there. So the sacral chakra is also then connected to your sexual energy. It's connected to your life force energy. It's connected to your creative energy as well, right? So for example, okay, and your emotions are in here as well. So maybe something took place that you weren't able to emotionally process, that you are going into the realm of addiction, for example, right? To mask that energy. So you'd have to explore within the self to see what was it that took place that you were masking. It's on an emotional level, okay? With, you know, addictions, and addictions are on a range, right? So that's what it is. You have to get to the root of the issue always, is basically what that is. The root of the issue, where does it stem from, and what are you masking with the addiction? So you're going to have to explore within yourself. Now, some things that can take place with the 8th house and the 12th house, for example, the 8th house can be anything to do with sexuality. For example, anything to do with not being able to express your emotions, not being able to be vulnerable. It could be this. It could even be, for example, like let's say you absorbed a lot of energies around you other people's stuff, for example. Like maybe you're a very sensitive child, or you were, for example, and it's like you learned to shut that off because you weren't able to process everything that you were picking up on. So it's like now you go into the realm of addictions or addictive tendencies or patterns, right? It could be this, okay? So addictions are on a range, but it's something of the sort you want to explore. It's connected to the sacral chakra, and usually it's connected to some form of emotions. And also codependencies are addictions as well, right? You can be, you know, codependent on a person, right? That's a form of addiction as well. I mean, addictions are on a range, you know, but usually it's masking something, right? So you want to see like what takes place that basically triggers you into that moment to basically go into the addiction. And only you're going to know this, right? You're going to have to explore within yourself. Hey everyone, welcome. If you guys would like any information on your own natal charts, on metaphysical concepts, feel free to comment below. I'm just going in order. You're welcome. Oh my gosh, Esperanza, you're so funny. Okay, I'm going back up. You have Saturn in your 12th house. That's a sign of a writer, actually. Let's see, Saturn. Okay, I did that one. And you said, what does Black Moon Lilith in Aries in the first house mean? So that's also your shadow side and your shadow self. So for example, when it's in Aries and it's in the first house, maybe you pick yourself all the time, right? Which again, sometimes it's not necessarily shadow. Like sometimes in previous lifetimes, you weren't able to, right? Choose yourself. But in this lifetime, it could be like ruthless, the energy, right? Where it's like willing to throw people under the bus, for example, right? For the self. So it depends, right? It's just a matter of having this in your awareness that you can kind of go into this energy, okay? That's kind of how Lilith operates. It's like the dark side. You can kind of look at it as like Pluto's little cousin. You said Uranus conjunct descent in Aquarius. Oh, wow. So you have Uranus and it's conjuncting the descendant in Aquarius in the 7th house. So your 7th house is in Aquarius and you have that Uranus aspect, okay? When it comes to relationships, you're unconventional, basically, okay? So whatever the norm is, you're usually not going to fit into that, okay? That's kind of how that energy works. So you will see these people in relationships that are long distance, okay? Or let's say you're in a serious relationship, but you guys aren't living together, okay? Or you guys don't merge, let's say, finances and assets together, okay? Which personally, I see this is like where the collective is heading, in my opinion, like the Aquarius 7th house or Venus in Aquarius or like Venus-Uranus aspects, right? So you're just like a little bit more advanced compared to the collective in terms of relationships, okay? Now, the thing is, you could be like this or you could attract people like this to you. Now, the thing is also with Uranus aspects, what's important to understand, especially like Venus-Uranus aspects, or in your case, like the descendant Uranus aspect, or even like, again, Aquarius 7th house or Venus in Aquarius, okay? This energy with Uranus basically influencing all of that, the person needs to be able to maintain the sense of self, okay? It's all about individualism. So it's like, this is why they don't like to get overly enmeshed with other people, okay? As soon as the relationship becomes overly enmeshed and you guys are operating together as one unit, that energy is gonna leave, okay? It's basically what that is. So because it's in your 7th house, either you're like this or you're attracting people like this to you, okay? So it depends because the energy is within your energetic field, right? So it's kind of like, how is it going to be manifesting? But that's kind of how it works, okay? So it's ahead of the time, and it's anything that's unconventional, right? In terms of relationships, like anything that's outside of the norm. It could even be like, let's say, online relationships, or even like your friends, right? You could have a lot of online friendships, for example, or you could meet your partners online. So it's things like this, okay? It could be relationships where you see, let's say, your best friend like once a year, and you guys are still besties, right? Because it's like, Aquarius, again, needs to maintain the self. So it's like you need a relationship that allows you the freedom to be able to roam and do your own thing, and like the trust that the person understands that you're going to come back to them, okay? Is basically what that is. It's not enmeshed, it's not codependent. Like most relationships now are codependent, if you ask me, okay? Codependent, enmeshed, like no boundaries, like it's all blurred, right? So that Uranus energy isn't like that. It's the opposite of that, basically, okay? Hey everyone, how are you guys doing? I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. No, I haven't seen that movie, but I'm going to screenshot it so I can look into it after the live. You said so accurate. You don't want to live or merge with anyone. You do have a lot of online / long distance relationships. Exactly. Or friendships. Exactly. Uranus and Jupiter in your first house, both in Sag. Thoughts for you, Esperanza, like freedom is the name of the game. Okay. You need to be free is basically what that is. Again, Uranus in the first house, a strong sense of individuality, right? So it's like you need to be able to be the self is basically what that is, okay? That's how Uranus operates. It needs to maintain the self, the person is really, really what that is. So you could attract a lot of people to you, right? Because like that energy is going to be very non-judgmental too. I'll say that much as well. Uranus in the first house. I love Uranus in the first house people, even Aquarius rising types of people, because they're non-judgmental. Like, they're the types of people that are gonna be friends with everybody, right? And then everybody feels comfortable to be, again, their true selves, right? Because Uranus is that energy of authenticity, right? So the more authentic you are, the more authentic the people around you will be as well. Hey, Three Heavens Healing, thank you. You're welcome. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'm just going in order. Just going back up now. Sun at 29 degrees and Pluto at 29 degrees, 12th house of both Libra. Are they conjunct? Can you let me know? Well, they're both at 29 degrees, but can you confirm? You have Saturn and Scorpio in the 12th house. How will the transit affect you? Let me think. Saturn is in Scorpio and it's in the 12th house. How will it not? I'd have to look into that. Saturn and Scorpio in the 12th house. Because the question here is, where do you have Scorpio in your chart? Let me know. You said, what more can I tell you if your Sun, Venus, and Saturn is in Aquarius? Then you said Moon and Mercury in Pisces, and Pluto, Mars, Jupiter, and Scorpio. You need a deeper insight of what I think of your path. So I can do a reading for you if you want more information on that. Basically, if you want to know more, but in a nutshell, you have Sun, Venus, and Saturn in Aquarius. You have Moon, Mercury, and you said Moon, Mercury, Pisces, and then, okay, and then you have Pluto, Mars, and Jupiter and Scorpio. I mean, something definitely unconventional, outside of the box, with all that energy in there, and like here to heal and here to be of service and basically transmute energy is basically what that is. Out of bound planets, what would you like to know about that? What are my thoughts on, hey, Andrea, how are you doing? Thank you for the compliment. Okay, I'll get to you in just 1 second. You said, what are my thoughts on Black Moon Lilith in Aquarius in the 6th house? Okay, so basically this is your shadow side, okay? Lilith is gonna be your dark side. You can kind of look at it as like Pluto's little cousin, okay? That's the way that I see the energy. Doesn't mean this, but it's just how I see it, okay? So when you have Lilith in Aquarius and in the 6th house, this is a rebel, okay? But sometimes the energy rebels just to rebel, and then it's to your detriment. Do you know what I mean? So like, let's say, for example, you know, someone puts like some kind of rule, you know, like let's say you always went to a certain class at a certain period of time, and now they say, okay, well, now everybody has to do this before the class. I can't think of it, but for example, like let's say they put some kind of rule or restriction on you, you're gonna rebel against that. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's rebellion, right? And rebellion can be good, but then it's sometimes to your detriment, right? Because sometimes these people are going to be like contrarians to the point where it's like someone's going to say like, you know, an apple is red, and you're gonna be like, no, it's blue. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, that's the dark side of Aquarius, right? It can be very detached. It can be very much fighting the status quo as well, like in the shadow sense. And then the 6th house Lilith, well, this energy can go into hypochondria, okay? So just keep that in mind. Okay, Vertex and Saturn in the 8th house. Can you tell me what sign it's in, Andrea, if you're still in the room? You said, is out of bound the same as out of sign? I'd have to look into that. I thought it was when you first typed that, but I would have to double check that, confirm, and get back to you. So I'm screenshotting that. You said tips for overcoming inertia with Mars retrograde in Virgo 3rd house, opposing Saturn in Aries 9th house. Very much stop and go energy. Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle because you have it retrograde too. So here's the thing, again, you guys, it depends, like when you have any aspect, it depends which one of the planets are you going into, okay? So it's like Mars opposing Saturn, you know, this could be a very good business energy because it will give you the discipline, right? But it's going to be a matter of figuring out what it is do you want to do. Do you know what I mean? But Mars retrograde is going to be very much like fighting against that energy, which is probably what you feel already, okay? So in that particular case, again, knowing this about yourself, how can you counteract that energy? That's all that you can do at the end of the day, is the way that I see it, right? Hey, Maria. Oh my gosh. Hi. How are you doing? Yes, I'm answering astrology questions, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. Okay, Andrea, you said Gemini. So let me go and see what you said up here. Okay, so you said Vertex and Saturn in the 8th house, and it's in Gemini. Okay, so is it conjunct? Also, that's my next question. Are they conjunct? Because Vertex is going to be a fated event, okay? So Vertex, I always say to people, take it with a grain of salt because it's like a fated event and it puts you on your path, okay? So with Vertex, the house is going to tell you who you're experiencing the event through, like the type of person, and then the sign is going to be the vibe of that particular fated event, okay? So, for example, Vertex in Gemini, and it is in the 8th house. The 8th house can be through an astrologer. It could be through a psychologist. It could be through a therapist, for example. It could be through a financial advisor. It could be through your spouse. It could be through an intimate partner. Although 8th house is usually someone that you know a little bit deeper, right? So like a common law spouse or someone that you've been with for a long period of time, okay? that you've like merged with energetically. So through one of these people, you experience a Gemini type of event through, okay? So for example, let's say, you always struggle with speech and communication because Saturn's in there as well, okay? Let's say you always struggle in this area. Well, let's say your partner, let's say your intimate partner or like your spouse, through knowing them or dating them or being with this person for an extended period of time, they kind of helped you come more into your throat chakra. Or maybe they suppress your throat chakra more that you were meant to kind of break free from that, okay? Because Saturn is in there as well, right? Because Saturn and Gemini gets restricted through a father figure usually, and then if it's not the father, dominant masculine role in your life, if it's not this person, it's going to be your teachers, your managers, like people who are in authoritative positions above you, okay? So you get restricted in the area of speech. Now, it is generational, so it's you and the 3-year bracket, like everyone in that 3-year bracket, basically, is going to experience this. It's also in school, it's also in terms of learning, okay? So this 8th house person, whoever it is, maybe let's say it is, again, an 8th house type of person. This person, again, helps you with your throat chakra and your speech and your communication. So something like this. Okay, it's not conjunct. Something of this sort, though, it could take place, okay? And then Saturn in the 8th, this is a restriction when it comes to your sexuality, your vulnerability. It can be when it comes to anything to do with the sacral chakra, okay? You get restricted in this area. So it's like you're kind of overcoming this. With Saturn, you guys, it matures after the age of 35. So you kind of go through the trials and tribulations, and then it turns into you mastering that area, okay? And then probably assisting other people who have struggled in that same area as well. You said, how do you survive a relationship with the synastry of Pluto square Sun, Pluto square Mars, Pluto square Venus? That's going to be intense, okay? Depends, like, how evolved are the two people. What I do want to say is a lot of the time when you guys encounter a Plutonian relationship, it's because there's shadows and shadow work there. And I'm curious to know, is one of you guys a Plutonian? Is the other person a Plutonian? Because it's like, usually if you're a Pluto dominant person, for example, and you're used to the energy, you might not feel it as much. Or, this person can bring all your stuff to the surface. That's what a Plutonian relationship is, okay? Feels heavily karmic. It's kind of like, like that devil energy, like in the tarot, for example, where you feel bound to this person, okay? When it's in the shadow, right? So you guys are meant to overcome all of the lower vibrational, shadowy Plutonian things together, okay? So what is this? Jealousy, manipulation, control, okay? Fear of losing the person, fear of betrayal in general, right? All these things. So sometimes even coming into your power, boundaries are going to be a huge theme, okay? When you overcome that, okay, and if you do in a relationship, okay, depends, again, how evolved are the two people with synastry always, right? When you overcome that, the divine version of Plutonian relationships are deep relationships, intimate relationships, okay? Super close to the person. Even the Pluto squaring Venus, it could be a lot of money involved, okay, in this relationship as well. So it's this, basically. And I'm curious to know who is the Pluto person and who is the Sun person is basically what that is. Because usually in synastry, they say that the outer planet person feels it less. They're usually the ones triggering the inner planet person, but it's energy at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? So both people could be affected as well. You said you had that kind of relationship, and then you said so toxic. Yeah, it's intense, definitely, okay? Definitely intense. Like anytime you guys hear about, you're welcome, anytime you guys hear about, again, people talking about karmic relationships, or just like they couldn't leave the person, or there was this magnetic connection, or so much sexual attraction, like that's usually Pluto, right? And usually when you have a lot of sexual energy present in a dynamic, sexual energy is healing energy, right? So it's going to bring people's stuff to the surface. It depends where they're operating in terms of their chakras, right? Because it's like, again, until people have a spiritual awakening and they start working on themselves, everybody, right? All of us, okay, at one point in time are in the lower 3 chakras. That's just the way the society is, right? So it's like when you encounter the Pluto dynamic, okay, and maybe there's a lot of the sexual energy present, and it doesn't even mean that you have to engage sexually with the person, okay? That's also where it's really, really interesting with these types of relationships, okay? It could just be present amongst the two people, right? And again, sexual energy is healing energy. So it's gonna bring everything that's chilling at the spine, okay? All the shadow behaviors, the jealousy, all these things is going to bring it to the surface. So now it's up to you. Are you going to transmute this energy, okay? Again, if you yourself are in that state where you haven't transmuted that already, okay? If you've transmuted it, then it goes into the divine version, right? But more often than not, Plutonian relationships are going to show you where basically you are operating out of your shadow is basically what that is, okay? That's what Pluto does. It brings things to the surface. It basically, brings the exterior, right? Like things that you thought once were a certain type of way is going to break that down energetically, okay? You said you're the Pluto person, so you're probably triggering the other person. You said you also have a strong Venus conjunct Sun and Venus conjunct Venus. That's also a strong attraction, okay? Venus conjunct Sun, Venus conjuncting the ascendant, Venus in the first house, like the other partner's first house, okay? That's usually a strong like physical attraction. Like you might be exactly that person's type, okay? Or whoever is that person, okay? And then Venus conjunct Venus is like you guys love in the same way, okay? Or like the love language is very, very similar. You said Uranus is the only planet you like. It's definitely a funky planet. You said vertex in the 7th house means fated relationship. Does that mean long-term? Not necessarily. It's usually a fated event, okay, that takes place. And the way that I see it is like the event puts you on your path, okay? So through a relationship, depending on what the sign is in there, it's going to show you whatever the sign is, okay? You said you're a Plutonian and you want a Plutonian. Exactly. Otherwise, things feel boring, flimsy, lacking in purpose. And that's the thing. If you're a Plutonian, usually like Plutonian relationships work for you, right? Because it's like otherwise it could be too surface level energetically, okay? And Pluto wants that intensity, right? But if you're not a Plutonian and then you're experiencing this for the first time, well, in that case, it's like, what is happening here, okay? That's kind of how the energies work. You said 12th house hidden in Scorpio. So you said 12th house hidden in Scorpio with Aries moon, Sagittarius rising. Is that a hard sign to express emotions? You said 12th house hidden in Scorpio with Aries moon, Aries moon isn't... Aries moon... Here's the thing with Aries moon. It's not that, like, I can't say that they have a hard time expressing emotions because they can be very emotionally impulsive, Aries moons. And a lot of the time, like, Aries energy is anger, okay? It's explosive, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that it could be a hard time expressing, like Aries moon wouldn't be, because like, again, it's Aries, right? And it's like, sometimes they say things because it's maybe in the 12th house, but here you said 12th house hidden in Scorpio with Aries moon. What do you mean 12th house hidden in Scorpio? And what house is the Aries moon in? Let me know. You said you're Plutonian too. Oh my gosh, Plutonians unite. Literally, it makes sense, right? You said you can't do surface level. Exactly. Plutonian people, Scorpionic people, again, A-house types of people, they can't do surface level is basically what that is. And then usually you're used to the energy already within yourself, right? And it's like because you're so intense, you create that intensity in another person, right? Because usually the Plutonians' love nature is that intensity. So it's like if you're not feeling that in another person, it kind of symbolizes to you that they're not into you kind of thing. So it depends, right, how evolved they are, because Pluto in the shadow can be really, really intense as well, okay? Like really dark, and again, like the lower aspects of Pluto. So it depends how evolved are the two people. You said Aries moon can be volatile. Absolutely. They're going to say everything right away, basically. You said, do I think there's a connection with your ancestors when you said, do I think? So do I think there is a connection with ancestors when you have a certain position in astrology? Your grandfather had his midheaven. I see the same. Yes, absolutely. Okay. You'll see it travels through families. BRB, you guys. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Yes, there absolutely is some sort of connection. You'll see that certain things and patterns travel through family lines, okay? If you kind of look at it from like a zoomed out perspective, okay? So for example, like let's say the Plutonian people, we were just talking about the Plutonian energy, right? You will see that there's a theme within the family line of the Pluto energy, right? Or let's say there's sometimes a Uranus theme, let's say taking place throughout the family, right? In your case, right, the Taurus, Scorpio, okay, midheaven, IC, you know, the IC, right? Hold on, the midheaven, tell me, okay, you said midheaven, IC, and you said same as yourself. Tell me, is your IC in Scorpio or is it in Taurus, okay? I'm curious to know, but regardless, okay, the IC is the home and the upbringing, right? So it's like, it's kind of carried down. It makes sense, right? Basically, like the grandfather, you know, was raised in a certain way and that kind of trickled throughout the family line. So it makes sense when you look at it that way as well, okay? IC is in Scorpio. Yeah, and then you can also kind of look at it as like, sometimes I look at things as like, maybe there's something here in terms of his career, for example, that wasn't able to be fully expressed with the Taurus midheaven and it's traveled now to you, okay? That's kind of how I see things sometimes too. So for example, maybe there was a certain, let's say, status that he wanted to achieve, or monetary status, or a certain type of luxurious experience, or maybe he bought 2 houses and he wanted, you know, to have 5, whatever, right? Something to do with Taurus, right? It's probably, there's something here that's unexpressed, I feel like, and it kind of got to you. So it's up to you, like what you want to do with that energy. You said your grandparents both had a set of Scorpio and Capricorn moons. Your mom is a Capricorn moon and you're a Scorpio moon. Exactly. Makes sense, right? You'll see that. You'll see especially moon signs. I've noticed that. Moon signs tend to travel in family lines. Another thing that might happen is there might be synastry between the family where the moons fall into the 4th house of the other parent, for example. There could be energies of that as well. But it makes sense, right? Because it's like, again, the way that they were raised, you know, that's the way that they were raised, right? So like, that's how they raise you. Like, it just makes sense, right? So it's kind of like traveling throughout the family line. Okay, I'm going back up. I'll get you guys at the bottom in just a second. Let me see where I was up here. You said parents, teachers, managers. Yeah, especially like if you're a Pluto person, you probably also don't want to be controlled. So you're not going to do well with that energy. Okay, Scorpio, even Aquarius, sometimes Saturn. But Saturn, like energetically, like if you're a Saturnian person, you will learn from these people, okay? Saturn is very strategic, like they're very smart, and that's why they're successful down here on this earth plane. Like they're willing to have mentors and these types of things, right? Whereas like when we look at Aquarius energy, for example, although Aquarius did used to be ruled by Saturn, but if we look at Aquarius, like even in like the Uranus rulership, like they're like, I do not want to be contained. So maybe, you know, this is just like a hypothesis, but maybe like Aquarius like energy is trying to break free from like the old Saturnian rulership, okay, in terms of like wanting to be unique, in terms of like the current Uranus rulership, like maybe that's something that they're breaking free from. And just an idea, thinking of that just now as I'm speaking to you guys. Okay, let me go back up and see what you guys saying in here. You said you wonder if Tesla had an Aquarian placement. I always wonder that, but he doesn't. You said with marrying a pigeon. Did he end up marrying the pigeon? You said maybe he mixed marrying and carrying. You know, I always wondered if he had Aquarius, and I have looked up his chart, and I don't remember seeing Aquarius, but I would have to look at it again. Maybe there's Uranus aspects taking place in there, or maybe Aquarius degrees taking place in there because of the way that he thinks and all of his inventions. It's very, again, Uranus and Aquarius energy. Okay, I'm going back up. Let's see, where was I up here? You said 12th house Scorpio, but the house is empty. Doesn't matter. It still means something, okay, when you have 12th house Scorpio. So your unconscious is Scorpio, actually. Are you a Sag rising, Diana, if you're still in the room? It's so interesting. I was just thinking about this the other day with Sag rising, because it's like on the surface, Sag rising is fun. They want to travel if they don't have an interception, okay? Because sometimes you can have an interception in the Placidus tropical system and you might have 12th house Sag. But, you know, if you look at Sag in the 1st house, okay, and then you have the 12th house in Scorpio, which is that 12th house Scorpio energy, it's a lot, okay? So Sag risings have a lot to clear, okay? Because a lot of their unconscious is Scorpio, okay? So on the surface with the 1st house, they might seem fun, they might seem adventurous, but beneath the surface, okay, with the 12th house, what's happening in their unconscious is a lot of things to clear, okay? A lot of fears with that 12th house in Scorpio, okay? A lot of just like past life things, maybe like past life belief systems that are carried over into this lifetime that you could be clearing with that 12th house Scorpio. It's a lot, okay? A lot. But at the same time, after you clear it, you become the best psychologist, okay? You're able to read people like a book, basically, with that energy as well. So depends, again, where you're at in terms of your journey. Aries, Sun and Mercury in the 10th house, and you said at 8 degrees, and you're in Aries, Sun, Libra, Moon, Cancer rising. So you're here to step away from the family line. Actually, that's part of the karma for you. Could be a struggle because you're a Cancer rising, okay? But usually Aries and the big 3 are here to step away from the expectations of the family line and pave their own way and pave their own path. You could struggle with that though, because your people-pleasing tendencies with the Libra moon, okay, and just like wanting to make the home happy. And then the Cancer rising is also the abandonment wound, whether it's in this lifetime or previous lifetimes, because Cancer kind of carries that orphan energy within them from previous lifetimes, or it could be in the earlier part of this lifetime, right? So that's Cancer rising. So it's like there's a strong connection for you to family, but it's ironic because you're actually meant to step away from the family and pave your own way in this lifetime, okay, with the Aries sun. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that resonated. I'm not sure what I was talking about. Oh, the Sagittarius rising. Oh my gosh, 3 heavens healing. You're so funny. Yes, okay, Sagittarius rising. If you have the 12th house in Scorpio, it can be a struggle. And it's interesting because I've noticed with Sag energy, when you're talking to them, because they're mutable, it's like when they start with a thought, by the end of the conversation, it like changes and morphs into this other thing. and then you have to like pull them back in energetically and be like, okay, but what about that first thing you were saying, okay? Because it's mutable energy, so it's even more of a struggle because it's like already it's energetically crowny. I call this crowny, right? Where you're kind of like, again, in the same sentence, you started with this thing, like you started with this story, and it's like within the next 5 seconds, you're now talking about this other thing. It's very mutable. It's so interesting to interact with mutable energy. I've seen that happen with Pisces too, where it's like, it's very interesting. So it's like, because it's crowny in this way energetically, okay, it's like you have the mutable nature to you, and then on top of that, you now have the 12th house in Scorpio, which is even more crown chakra activity, like a lot of unprocessed things that could be taking place, which could be feeding into this whole train of thought that is not necessarily linear, right? So it's interesting with Sag rising, if you have the 12th house in Scorpio, and also in general, like Pluto in the 12th house could resonate with that energy as well, okay? With that whole energy of just like a lot of unconscious things to clear and to purge. Thanks, Madeline. How are you doing? Welcome to the chat. Okay, I'm just gonna go back up and see what you guys were saying up here. I'll get you guys on the bottom in just a second. You said Saturn, Virgo, and then it's squaring Neptune. Yeah, the Neptunian energy can be a little bit of a struggle, okay? Because Saturn is the discipline energy, and then Neptune is going off into the ethers, right? So with Neptune always, you have to figure out how can you ground the ideas, how can you ground the dream, how can you ground the vision, okay? That's basically the trick to the trade with Neptune. Because Saturn in the 10th house, like that could take you far, right? In terms of career and your ambitions and these types of things. But then it's like the Neptune squaring that, it's like Neptune could be like, actually, let's do this. Or let's chill today. Let's go with the flow. We'll see what happens, right? And that doesn't do well down here on this earth plane. That's the thing. Neptunian energies struggle down here because, again, the earth plane is a certain type of way. It's the earth energies, right? So Saturn will do well down here, but then the whole Neptunian aspect of things is going to pull you out of body into the crown chakra, into the dreaming, into the psychic realms, and these types of things, okay? But if you want to pull it all in, okay, and basically pull that Neptunian energy in, you know, you kind of have to figure out one thing is basically what that is that you want to do instead of, I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I don't feel like it, and that type of vibe, okay? And the Neptune in the first gives you the undertone of having a Pisces rising, okay? You said, you said as a Pisces / A house person, you said as a heavy Pisces / A house person, you've been thriving since you've been in your own energy and working on finding a routine. Exactly, because here's the thing, okay? If you look at the structure of the world, the way that it is, especially, you know, the way that it's structured, very masculine energy based, right? 9 to 5 routine, same thing every day, you know, morning, whatever, and then you get into a whole routine, right? Weekend, sleep, eat, repeat, right? That doesn't work with, again, the feminine energy, right? In someone's chart. It doesn't work with Pisces. It doesn't work with Scorpio. It doesn't work with the A house. It doesn't work with the 12th house, right? So it's like these people, it is better for you to have your own routine, but then again, Pisces is gonna kind of distract you, right? So you might have to work on a structure to contain it for yourself in terms of what works for you, right? Because again, you still wanna look at the earth plane, which again, Virgo thrives down here, which is routine, but it's gonna be a routine that's catered to your own energetic field is basically what that is, okay? You said, let's see what you guys are saying down here. You said ground like electricity, Uranus, a ground wire. You said there goes your Uranus in the first house. You said Neptune in your first. Exactly, it's very much crown chakra activity too. Exactly. Any Neptunian aspects, all of this, you go off into the crown, right? And the thing is, you're gifted, right? Like you're gifted in terms of the psychic realms, the metaphysical realms, like all of these things, astrology, like you're gifted in that sense. It's just a matter of grounding the information into the physical plane and into the physical reality. Like if you're able to be in the crown chakra all day, right, and that works for you, that's great, right? It's great. But if there's something that you're trying to do or anchor or like bring through, then you have to look at the earth plane's energies and work with the earth plane is basically what that is, okay? Yeah, you can't be too rigid because anytime that energy is going to want to leave. You said, what do I think about past life reading, but with your birth chart, basing everything on the South Node and any aspects? You've been seeing people do that online. I mean, the South Node is going to tell you about your past lives. It will. But here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. It's like, in terms of past lives, it's like you want to see what took place in this lifetime first, right? It's kind of like if you can't resolve what took place in this lifetime, you want to look at the previous lifetimes. That's kind of how I see it, right? It's like, let's say you have an irrational fear coming from somewhere and nothing happened in this lifetime for that to take place, then you would look at the past lives, right? Or something like unexplainable, you can look at the past lives in that case, right? So it's like, I understand that a lot of people are learning about the new age and they're very excited. And I find that a lot of people, and obviously like when I was learning about the new age too, like I was interested in these things as well, right? That's how I know about them. But it's like, I find that a lot of people jump to the past lives without resolving this lifetime first, if that makes sense, right? So it's like, if you can't find the answers in this lifetime, look at your previous lifetime is basically what that is. That's the way that I see it. You said, has anyone else's senses been ramped up lately or elevated lately? All of yours have been ramped up. Interesting. I mean, the veil is really thin right now. It's like the thinnest time of the year, okay? Especially as we go into like, if you're in the northern hemisphere and like the night is becoming longer and the day is becoming shorter, like it's more shadows, right? Coming to the surface. You said that I said Uranus needs to ground, and then you said Uranus rules electricity, the current currency. You said you wonder if Pluto, yeah, it will. It's going to go into digital currency, allegedly, just my own opinion. Okay. So I'm just throwing that out there. So you guys can do whatever you want with that information, but that's the direction we're heading in, okay? First, that's what's going to happen first, and then eventually it'll move into something different, but that's where we're going to go first, okay, in terms of Pluto and Aquarius. Basically, more techie, right? It's basically what that is. I'm just going back up. Can I tell you about Pluto conjunct Libra ascendant, Pluto square Sun, Lilith, Jupiter, and then midheaven, Moon, and you have a stellium. And all of that is conjuncting your Pluto. Well, you're probably very Plutonian, okay? You probably come through people's lives like a tornado if you're still in the room, okay? Basically forcing them to change, forcing them out of their comfort zone, bringing their shadows to the surface. So people might not like you, but the thing is, when people don't like you, it's because they don't like themselves, right? Because the thing is, with Plutonian energy, okay, or like Pluto aspects or Scorpio aspects, even A house, right? They just mirror to people what's going on within that person, right? So that's why either people love you or they don't like you, okay? Because it depends what they're seeing in you, okay? If they see something within you that they don't like within themselves, or maybe they haven't accomplished, that's usually where the jealous and envy comes from with that energy. It's like, it's all them, right? It's all their own issue that they need to resolve. So you're coming through people's lives to force them to change is basically what that is. That's the karma. You can look at it that way, okay? He said big time. Exactly. You said, from a spiritual perspective, any advice for dealing with grief? Okay, this is so interesting. Just before the live, okay? Just before the live, me and my friend were talking about this, or this live today, okay? Me and one of my friends were talking about this, and we were talking about how just grief in general. And then I was saying that like I had the epiphany like a few years ago. I think I talked about that in one of my books. I can't remember now, but at some point I talked about it. And if you guys are interested in the books, they are on my website, okay? Underneath the shop tab. But anyways, so I was saying to my friend, and I was like, you know, it just feels like this entire life is just like a perpetual state of grief, right? Because it's like, it's interesting because you will see that in a lot of esoteric texts, because they talk about the concept of letting go and non-detachment, right? So it's really interesting to see, because it's like, yes, there's always grief taking place. Anytime you go through an ending, you're going to go through a grieving phase is basically what that is, okay? So that's just what it is. And it's better to feel your emotions, right? Because if you don't feel it, you suppress it, it's going to affect you energetically and physically. And I feel like the more you go through it, the less it affects you. I hope that that makes sense, okay? Because it just becomes a natural process and part of life, the whole art of letting go, okay? And that's another thing that Scorpio energies are meant to also master in this lifetime, okay? I'm not sure what that is, but I'm going to look that up, Esperanza. I've never heard that word. You said you grieve so deeply too. Yeah, exactly. If you feel, you grieve, right? So then I was thinking, like, as I was talking to my friend, because it was like a really quick conversation, and I was like, I need to jump on the live. But then I was also thinking in my head, and I was thinking about how, you know, I understand why some people shut themselves off emotionally. Do you know what I mean? Or they become emotionally unavailable, or just like disconnected and detached from their bodies because they're not feeling anything, because probably, first of all, a lot of unprocessed things. Yes, but it's like when you feel, right, you also experience the plethora of emotions, and then you also go through the grieving process, right? And some people can't handle that, you know, energetically, emotionally, right? Because it's emotional strength, and a lot of people aren't taught to have emotional strength. So yeah, I was thinking about that. How some people just like turn themselves off. But it's like at the same time, when you turn yourself off emotionally, then you're not really living, and you're also not really human, okay? Because it's so interesting, okay? Because sometimes when I'm thinking about things in my head, I'm just like talking to people, right? Just like in my mind, right? And basically what I was saying to this one person, I was saying to this person, and I was like, oh, like, what do you think it means to be human, right? Just like a random question. So, and then I was thinking in my head, like, in my opinion, my answer would be, what it means to be human is like you being a feeler, right? Like you feeling things and you being in tune with your emotions. I actually have a video on here under my metaphysical playlist. And in the metaphysical playlist, basically I talk about how your emotions are your connection to God's source, right? So it's like when you cut yourself off from the feeling and the emotional aspect of things, first of all, yes, it's challenging, because yes, you go through the grieving process, absolutely, right? And it's like, it's a lot to deal with, absolutely. But at the same time, when you're connected to your emotions, you're also connected to your intuition, you're connected to the other side, you're connected to the creator, right? Because that's basically what is going to be guiding you, okay? So that's my story about that. You said this is so Pluto and Aquarius. Hey, I love that. You said that's more Saturn. I have to look that word up. I've never heard of that word, but I just screenshotted it, so I'm going to look it up after this live. You said, yes, it can be overwhelming. The more you feel grief, the more you need to balance out. Exactly. And I feel like the more you learn to let go in your life, the less it's going to affect you. Do you know what I mean? Because like sometimes people are feeling. So I understand, like, okay, you know, when you go through life, like everybody has a moment where they've had maybe a huge moment of grief, but then I've noticed that, like, you know, sometimes people at that point in time, like, completely cut themselves off from feeling at all ever, right? And it's like, and then also they end up in situations where they're trying to control not having that same outcome take place. And then unfortunately, you try to control that not taking place is inadvertently making it happen. I hope that makes sense, right? So it's like the more you go through the feelings and the emotions and you feel them and you don't fear, right? Let's say the concept of loss, right? Because grief is connected to loss, okay? This is a very Scorpionic conversation we're having right now, like very like Plutonian, okay? So the Plutonians are going to understand. So the more you go through that, the more you understand that it's just like the ebbs and flows of life is basically what that is, right? So that's grief in a nutshell. You're always going to feel it. You don't want to be stuck in it forever, but you still want to feel your emotions so it gets out of your system, because otherwise it gets trapped in the body, okay? And then eventually, allegedly, just my own opinion, it's going to manifest into certain things that are taking place within the body, okay? But that's just my own opinion. So everything starts spiritually first, okay? You said detach, / attach. We are the ones that place exactly meaning on anything and everything. If you think about it too, this is another thing that I was thinking about too. Another thing that I was thinking about too was the whole concept of attachment, right? So like most relationships are actually based in attachment and they're actually based in ego. I actually shared one of my older videos today with you guys on my community tab and talked about love, dating, and narcissists, okay? Not narcissists, narcissists. It's like an ancient mythological like story, okay? Anyways, if you guys are interested, check that video out. But basically, like what I was thinking about was like, I find that most relationships are based in attachment, right? And I was also thinking today, okay, earlier before all of that, actually, I was thinking that first and then it kind of inspired me to share that. But I was also thinking about how like, I find that a lot of relationships, and again, this is for everybody, are some form of ego validation, right? It's like, you know, either you want the person to want you or they want you to want them. And that's like all ego, right? Is basically what that is. So, and ego is also attachment, right? Like shadowy attachment, right? And then that's also connected to like fear of losing that person, because in a way you don't want your ego validation to leave, because it's like if your ego validation leaves you, then it's like you don't exist. That's actually what it's all connected to. You feeling like you don't exist, right? And then that's connected to the fear of death, okay? So yes, that's my TED Talk on all of that. Oh, you watched it? Awesome, nice. Yes, exactly. It's helping you get from one destination to the next. You said if that's our definition of what it means to be human, it appears exactly most people on this plane are inhuman. Exactly. That's exactly what it is, okay? In just my own opinion. I have to always say it's just my own opinion, right? But unfortunately, like if you detach from your, and you guys can reflect on that question for yourselves, right? Because I was thinking that in my mind, right? What is your definition of being human? Like what does it mean to be human, right? My definition, like I told you guys, is being in tune with your emotions and feelings and feeling things, right? And it's interesting to me because then you have the people who intellectualize their emotions, and I never really understand that, okay? But you'll see that more so with like air sign energy, okay? Especially when it's in the moon sign. But regardless, like if, again, you know, people who disconnect, you're disconnecting from source, right? So then it's like when you're disconnected from source, you go into an energy vampire state, because it's like you're not connecting to source through your own emotional vessel. You're trying to connect to source through another person. And that brings in codependency, and then that brings attachment, right? All these things, okay? You said yes, because bottling the feelings, exactly, it ends up manifesting in physical ways. Exactly. It manifests in a lot of ways. Sometimes it manifests in like a chaotic type of way too, okay? I've noticed sometimes people who have a lot of unprocessed emotions have a lot of chaos energy around them, okay? Because it's like, sometimes when people have unprocessed emotions, it's like, you know, even the way that they think is like energetically disorganized. It's like a lot of cognitive dissonance, right? Because when you go through something, you can look at it as traumatic, or again, a grief type of situation, or just like intense, right? You know, again, in terms of self-preservation, you have to rationalize that, right? In one way, shape, or form. And again, I'm not a psychologist or anything of that sort. It's always my disclaimer, okay? These are just things that I think about and reflect on, and I'm sharing with you guys and just having a conversation, right? So it's this. So it's like, when people try to rationalize, and everyone's going to do this, right? So everyone's going to have some sort of rationalization in terms of like how, you know, what they're doing, why they're doing that thing, right? Maybe it doesn't seem like that on the surface, but like there is something there. And again, you know, if it's something that's happening in terms of self-preservation and it's not processed in terms of trauma, it brings in this like cognitive dissonance energy within the person, if you're tapping into the person, right? Or like a disorganized train of mind or train of thought or something of the sort, okay? You said chaos is very Uranian. Interesting, like Einstein. I guess there's different types of chaos. I'm talking about like the chaos that like, I'm talking about chaotic energy in the shadow sense, okay? Like I'm talking about chaos in terms of like there's always something happening with this type of person. There's always some kind of drama. Do you know what I mean? Like that type of chaotic energy where it's like you talk to them and then they tell you like this thing happened. You're like, how is all of this taking place? Do you know what I mean? I mean that type of chaotic energy. There's obviously different types of chaos, yes, but I'm talking more so like that type of chaos. He said you relate to this as an 8th house Pisces moon that's also square Pluto. You shut yourself off when you were younger. You're finally opening up and being more vulnerable. Exactly. Then you feel more connected to source. Confirmation. Okay. It's this. And you will see that. So people who are sensitive, right? Or like more sensitive. So like 8th house moon, Scorpio moon, anyways, even like Pisces moon, like people who are more like emotionally like inclined, right? They tend to absorb a lot. So these energies can also go into emotional unavailability, right? Because not only did you absorb all of your stuff, you're also absorbing everybody else's stuff too, right? So yes, exactly. It's basically something that takes place and then you shut yourself off. And then when you shut yourself off, like in general in life, like it's a struggle, right? Because you can't feel into things is really what that is, okay? Is the situation good? How do I feel in the situation? You know, and I find that most things come like back down to intuition, in my own opinion. I feel like everyone has intuition, right? Because it's like a survival thing. Not everyone might be psychic, but everyone has some form of intuition, like gut feeling, right? But a situation. So like, I find that a lot of people have like ignored their intuition and like, they don't look at, you know, certain nudges that they get as something that's shadowy that's taking place or like a bad vibe because they got used to being in that energy all the time. It's kind of like a nervous system that's on overdrive is basically what that is, okay? He says, sometimes you don't ask a question or say a word in the chat and the rest of the tribe brings it up. Exactly, because we're all in the same like thought loop is basically what that is, right? Because it's energy, right? So like there's a reason, you know, that you guys are in the chat and you guys are on the channel and then we all vibe, right? Because we're in the same like frequency is basically what that is, okay? And then you said it relates to you directly. Yeah, it's basically this. You said, do I study astrology with numerology too? I look at people's numerology, but very like surface level with numerology. I know like what the numbers mean in terms of day number and life path, and that's it. I'm mainly in the world of astrology, okay? Thank you for the like button, you guys. Yes, you guys can always double tap the screen. During the live, you can double tap the screen to like the video. If you guys do like the video, that is, okay? If you guys are watching the live replay, you can click on the actual like on like the actual screen. But during the live, when it's like vertical like this, you can't exit it. That's basically what that is, okay? You said you see, yes, drama, yes, there's no musical fluidity in the creative process. Exactly, because like, okay, if we look at chaos in like the feminine energy type of way, right? Like, yes, there's that erratic behavior. Yes, I get what you mean in that type of chaotic energy. Like that's a different type of chaos. I was thinking more so, again, you know, like shadow chaos energy. You have Saturn, Pisces in the 9th house. Is this bad, chaotic, and how long is this gonna last you? You need this cycle to be done. You said Saturn, Pisces in the 9th house. Again, I don't look at anything as good or bad, is really what that is. It's the energy that's in your chart. So it's like, what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? It's like, it's there. So you might as well kind of see how can you put a positive twist on it. That's the way that I see things in terms of astrology. Or if you do look at it as something that could be potentially holding you back, how can you balance the energy within yourself? That's how I see it, right? So you might have to work harder. Like you might actively have to work harder is basically what that is, okay? So you said Saturn, Pisces in the 9th house, and then you said how long is that going to last you? You need this cycle to be done. So you're probably going through your Saturn return. It gets easier after the Saturn return is basically what that is in terms of like the Saturn energy. Yes, and then after the age of 35, Saturn quote unquote matures. Here's the thing with Saturn though, you guys, okay? And I guess this is why people fear Saturn, but it's like also like what's that whole quote, like play stupid games, get stupid prizes or whatever. That's kind of how Saturn is, right? It's like if you don't do anything shadowy, Saturn rewards you, right? Like let's say you're working hard towards something and you're putting in the hard work and you're putting in the effort, Saturn's gonna reward you. It blesses you, okay? If you are in the shadow energy of doing shady things and nefarious activities and you know, these types of things, right? Then Saturn is also going to get you, right? In the shadow sense. So it depends. What are you doing, right? Up until the Saturnian energy. Because you'll see, like, I'll always know what's happening. Like if I look at people, right? Even when I look at like true crime types of things, I'm always looking at like what's going on with Saturn. Basically, was there a Saturn transit aspect, like these types of things, okay? Because Saturn, that's just how Saturn is, okay? You said you had a client bawling their eyes out from a numerology summary. It can be accurate and worthwhile. He is also Chiron, first house in Cancer. That's good. That's good. Again, you know, there's all of these different systems. It's just a matter of seeing what resonates with you and your energetic field, right? Because again, even based off of like astrology, there's even like different types of other like group system things that other people have come up with too, right? So it depends. Like people, when they're meant to get the message that they're meant to get, they'll get it, right? And whatever realm you get it in is basically what it is. Oh, good. This is your first ever astrology chat. Welcome. If you want your own reading, okay, natal chart reading, progress natal chart reading, synastry reading, send me an email and I can read the chart for you. You guys can always ask me questions before the reading. It's a video that I send you guys and I talk, okay, the entire time. And then I send it to you guys and you can ask, you know, if you have something you want me to focus on, ask me then. And then I will do that for your reading. And then if you have questions after, you can send me an email as well, okay? That's basically how I do my readings. You said the Saturn in the 8th house give a long life. I'm not sure about that. It's interesting. I was actually curious to know, but in terms of like death and these types of things, I think there's a lot of like different things that you can look for in a chart because sometimes it's a transit as well. You're welcome. I'm glad that it resonated. You said you intuit to learn anything at all with first sight. Logic doesn't take precedence for that with you ever. Exactly. That's awesome. He said Pluto, Uranus, Mars in the 12th house, Virgo conjunct. Okay, hold on. You have Pluto, Uranus, Mars in the 12th house, and it's in Virgo. And then you have Pluto conjuncting the ascendant. Can I tell you the meaning? Okay, so Pluto conjuncting the ascendant, you give off like a Plutonian vibe, right? So people either love you or they don't like you. You might be intimidating to people, but really what you're doing is you're reflecting energy back to people, okay? That's that energy with the Pluto conjunct the ascendant, okay? And then all that 12th house energy, that's a lot of past life things that you're clearing in this lifetime, okay? Uranus in the 12th house can sometimes be like an inventor energetically because you're coming through from a previous lifetime, maybe with an invention or an innovation or like an idea and it's like past life related. Probably you weren't able to express it. You're coming through to anchor in this lifetime. So it's like if you're trying to tap into what these ideas could be with the 12th house in there, it's like figure out what is your method of meditation, right? For some people, it's a walking meditation. For some people, it's literally lying down. For some people, it's staring at a dot on the ground. For some people, it's going to yoga. For some people, it's cooking. For some people, it's cleaning. So like what is your meditative practice, right? When you're able to get into that frame of mind, because you have Uranus in the 12th and all these other 12th house energies, right? You can grasp it out of the ethers and try to figure out how to anchor it in this physical realm, okay? But Pluto in the 12th, that's intense, right? Because that's a lot of past life, like, you can look at it as like your subconscious and your fears and all these things like are basically something that you need to clear in this lifetime is basically what that is, like carried over from a previous lifetime. You can look at it that way, okay? You said love question. Is Uranus plus Neptune in the 7th house, Capricorn, 24 degrees? How's love looking for you? What kind of person? That's interesting. Uranus in the 7th. This is always interesting to me when you have Uranus. Okay, when you have Uranus, Neptune in the 7th, or if you have like Venus, Uranus, Neptune aspects. That's fascinating to me because there's the part of you that's Uranus in the 7th that wants to maintain your individuality and sense of self and into unconventional relationships. And then there's the other part of you that is like a dreamer, the Neptune in the 7th, okay, the Neptunian aspect that like dreams about relationships, dreams about the one, dreams about the ideal type of situation, right? So it's interesting because for these types of people, including yourself as well, right? Relationships for you might be better in your mind, okay? Because the thing is, when you start to get to know the person, their shadow traits come out, it's like the illusion is broken, right? So you can spend more time dreaming about love versus actually being interested in being in it. Now, when you have Uranus in the 7th and Neptune in the 7th, another way that this could manifest or could be beneficial for your energetic field could be something like, let's say, a long distance relationship or a relationship where you guys travel together, like something where the relationship doesn't get quote unquote too serious. Like it could be a longer term relationship and it could be serious in its own way, absolutely. But it's like when you have that space from the person, first of all, you get to maintain the self, which is Uranus in the 7th. Like you want to maintain your sense of self and your individuality in relationships, okay? But then you also have the time to dream of this person and kind of when you guys hang out, you get the best version of this person, you get the ideal version of this person compared to, let's say, people who live together and it's like, you know, you guys see each other 24/7 and you guys get annoyed of each other, right? So that's kind of like the complex love nature of that whole energy, right? So that's what's taking place now. If it's not you, you could attract people like this into your life as well, okay? Uranus in the 7th could be like inconsistencies as well when it comes to relationships and when it comes to your love nature. Hey, Mystic Journal, how are you guys doing? Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that resonated. You said the person who wants the perpetual fantasy, exactly. So you'll see this in terms of Venus, Neptune aspects. You can see this with Pisces in the 5th or the 7th house. And you can see that also with Neptune in the 5th or the 7th house, okay? These people dream about love more and it's better for them in their minds, okay? Where the person remains a dream because it's like when it's in your mind, the person has no flaws because you've curated them to be that ideal version. Do you know what I mean? So it's this. And it can also go into like romantic obsession, that energy as well, right? Again, always feeling like there's somebody out there. So you'll see also these people, okay, again, Venus, Neptune aspects, all of these energies, the Pisces and Neptune in the 5th or the 7th house, okay? Even Venus and Pisces, even Venus in the 12th can have these tendencies as well. They might be non-committal, okay? They might not necessarily commit because there's always this part of them that feels like that ideal person is still out there somewhere, okay? But what I'll tell you guys, okay, what I really feel like this energy is trying to achieve is the union with God, okay? The source creator, whatever way, shape, or form you want to look at it, the union within the self, right? So they go through a lot of heartbreaks because, again, of that illusion shattering and breaking, and they're looking for this like one true love. But I feel like ultimately what this energy is looking for is the union within the self, okay? So it's a little bit more philosophical, but that's kind of the vibe, okay? Hey, Nature's Moon, how you guys doing? Yeah, exactly. This is why these people are going to be good in like movies, writing books, you know, those like dream types of love stories, like a movie type of love. Like, again, because you have this like vivid imagination, you could be good in that area, or that could be an outlet for you, right? Because then you'll be able to, you know, live that dream. Or like you could be interested in acting, for example, because you could live that fantasy through acting in a certain type of movie, right? As long as you have an outlet for it, or even like musicians, sometimes you'll see like the greatest poets. I guarantee you, like, again, the greatest poets are like the people who talk about love and like this ideal version, or like, again, the love stories and like books and all these things. They are probably people who have these aspects in their charts, okay? Probably. You said in synastry, this is Venus conjuncting your Venus, mean deception and illusion. No, not necessarily. I'm curious to know where you got that. Venus conjunct Venus, because that could just symbolize that you guys have a similar love nature. Now, the deception will come in if there's a Neptunian aspect taking place in there, okay? So, like, let's say there's Venus conjunct Neptune in synastry, okay? It could be that. Even, like, if it's Mercury conjunct Neptune in synastry, it could be lies, let's say, or, like, you believe lies from the other person. Like, the deception can come through in that way. But Venus conjunct Venus, I'm curious to know where you learned that, because that's not something that I've heard about before. You said Neptune conjunct Venus. Okay, there it is. Yeah, the Neptune conjunct Venus, it could be deception and illusion. Yes, absolutely. But again, okay, here's the thing, you guys. It depends, right? It depends what energy are you going into, right? Because it's like Venus conjunct Neptune, if it's in the divine version, it could be like an unconditionally loving type of relationship. But it's like a lot of the time, these relationships are hard to maintain because it's like that vision, that dream. I'm not sure if you were in the chat just now when I went on that whole Venus conjunct Neptune, or like Venus Neptunian aspects tangent, right, for like the natal chart itself, right? But it's like when you have that in synastry, it's like, again, it depends who's who, but there will be an element on both sides. You know, like usually with synastry, they say that the outer planet person affects the inner planet person more, okay? So I'm curious to know, like, who's Venus and who's Neptune in the dynamic, right? Because Venus could be more affected, like in terms of Venus meeting the Neptune, right? And synastry, it's like you feel like you finally met this person, you met this one true love. But a lot of the time, you guys, even when it comes to deception, it comes down to self-deception is really what that is in these dynamics, because you're seeing the person through this rose-colored lens, okay? There's usually some sort of space in this situation where there's a lot of room for dreaming. Now, the question is, does one of you guys have this in your own natal chart, right? Or do one of you guys have this in your own natal charts, okay? Because it could be echoing, because you also have in synastry, something that takes place is like an energetic echo, okay? I hope that makes sense. So it's like if you have, let's say one of you guys has that energy in your chart, in their own chart, right? Or you have it in your chart. Let's say you have Venus conjunct Neptune. Someone comes through into your life, and this is going to be people within the generational bracket, right? So it could be with a lot of people within your generation. They come into your life, and you now project all of this onto that person. So the Venus conjunct Neptune person has their Venus conjuncting somebody else's Neptune. It's being echoed in the relationship, but really what's happening here is you're meant to clear that energy within your own chart. I hope that makes sense, but it's happening through the relationship, okay? So that's basically what's going on. There it is, okay? You said you have it in your own natal chart. Exactly. So it's being echoed in this relationship. So you already are a dreamer when it comes to relationships, okay? You want that one true love. You want that ideal love story, okay? If you just joined the chat, just rewind. Maybe when the live is done, you can go back maybe 5 minutes where I was talking about that a little bit more in depth. In terms of Venus Neptunian aspects, Venus in the 12th, Venus in Pisces can sometimes have that as well. You could have it with Pisces or Neptune in the 5th or the 7th house, okay? These people experience this is basically what that is. Looking for that ideal love story is basically what that is. You said you have that too in Scorpio. I'm curious though, Julie, I'm curious to know if you have any other of these aspects. If you have maybe Pisces in the 5th or in the 7th house, or like Neptune in the 5th or the 7th, okay? So it's like for these energies, love is something that you dream of, is basically what that is. And it doesn't mean it doesn't necessarily exist. What I'm saying is with Neptune, it feels like a deception because it's hard to maintain that perfect image, right? Because it's like you'll put this person on a pedestal, you will dream about them, but then when you actually get involved with them, right, all the shadows come to the surface and then the illusion gets shattered. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, it's really, really interesting because I was watching, what's that movie? I was watching the movie Past Lives, okay? Have you guys heard of that movie? Well, anyways, check it out. It's a really, really interesting movie. And in that movie, basically it's a relationship that's like this, okay? It's very Neptunian, like Venus type of vibe. And, you know, the guy's like madly in love with the girl. Long story short, okay, if you guys want to watch the movie, like this is like a spoiler alert, okay? Yeah, you said you have Pisces in the 5th and the 6th house. There it is, okay? So it's your Pisces in the 5th house that's creating that, okay? And are you a Scorpio rising? I'm curious to know. You said, thank you. Hey, Sue loves astrology. Oh my gosh, I love seeing so many new faces in here that I haven't seen before, or like new like names, okay? I don't see your faces, but I love seeing you guys. I came on live a little bit later. I know, I'm glad to find you too. Yes, I came on live a little bit later, so it's nice to see some new people in here. You said your progressed Venus went into Pisces. You do dream of a big romantic love. You said you hope it happens one day. Yeah, you'll see the people who are super into like the twin flame rhetoric, soulmates, that one true love, looking for the love story. They are these types of people, okay? So it's this. So because you have a vivid imagination when it comes to relationships, you know, again, here it is again, right? We talked about grief earlier in the chat. I know you may have joined later, but we talked about grief because sometimes the grief comes from some form of expectation, right? That you have, that you've envisioned or imagined, right? So it's this. So because you have this vivid imagination, you know, again, these people are great artists. You have a lot of art potential. You can even make money through these things. And another thing with these aspects, especially Venus, Neptune, these people dream about money again, right? Because Venus can be money as well. You dream about having all this money and all these types of things. And it's like, again, you want to act on that, right? Instead of having it in the ether the entire time. Hey, Scorpio. Am I Scorpio sun? Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm not a Scorpio sun. Actually, my sun has progressed into Scorpio. Maybe that's what you're picking up on. I am a Scorpio moon. I'm a Scorpio dominant, okay? So Pluto is my dominant planet. And yes, Libra sun, Scorpio moon, Libra rising. But all of that has progressed into Scorpio. At one point in time, you guys, most of my internal planets were in Scorpio, like in terms of secondary progressions. So that was fun. But I'm here now, so that's fun too. You said, what should you be doing? Hey, you're a Scorpio rising. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my progressed rising right now is in Scorpio. I'd have to double check. You said you have Libra moon and Scorpio sun and stellium. Hey, I have a Libra stellium and I have a Scorpio stellium. So that's why I like the progressed. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I love pink. Pink is my favorite color. It was so hard, you guys, to find turtlenecks that were like vibrant colors. Like all the stores are selling the turtlenecks and like the boring, like deathly colors. I'm like, I need happiness energy. Do you know what I mean? I don't need it in like the darker, like depressing colors. Yes. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Esperanza. Thank you for the likes. Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. Okay, so hold on. I started with this. You said, what should you be doing with your Saturn return? 4th house Saturn plus intense squares your 7th house Gemini sun, and then exactly in conjunct 12th house Scorpio moon. Oh, your Scorpio moon, and then you have 4th house Saturn. Yeah, 4th house Saturn is interesting, okay? Because you basically age backwards. It gives you the undertone of having a Capricorn moon. Thanks so much for the likes, you guys. You guys are awesome, okay? So yeah, when you go through your Saturn return through the 4th house, you could go through, let's say, a move. You might move back to live with your parents, for example. And I'm not speaking this into existence, so feel free to say I don't claim that energy, but those are some things that can take place, okay? Because basically around your Saturn return, you're resolving the karma around the home, okay? And because you're resolving the karma around the home, Saturn is now restricting you also in work, okay? So sometimes when people go through the Saturn return in the 4th, or if you're going through Saturn in the 4th transit, okay, it always affects the oppositional energy, okay? So it affects this energy, and then it's affecting the 10th house as well, right? Which is your career. So sometimes what happens, for example, is like, let's say you go through a job change, or you get a job, let's say in your town where you grew up in, maybe you move back there to resolve karma, let's say connected to the home, okay? It could be this, or it could also be, let's say, the people you live with. Let's say it's not your family directly. Let's say you live with roommates and you have certain, you know, dynamics there that are closely connected to your home and your upbringing. You are resolving that, okay? But it's connected to the home and the upbringing. In my opinion, it's better to go back to the source and heal it there, okay? So it doesn't perpetuate in your other relationships, because it's easier to heal it with the source. That's just the way that I see it, okay? But that's my own opinion. But yes. Oh yes. Oh my gosh. You said my placements. Yes. You have the fight, or you said you have to fight the urge to talk about astrology with every single person. Yes. So you know what's also interesting? So yeah, so that's happening in my energy, and then I pretty much have Uranus aspecting almost everything actually in my chart. It's aspecting a lot of my personal placements, and then the ones that aren't being aspected natally are being aspected by the transits. Isn't that so interesting? So there's that. You said Leo rising, no planets in the first house. Any information? You're Leo rising, and then you have no planets in the first house. It's interesting. You could have mastered the self in a previous lifetime. Can you tell me, do you have a lot of 7th house energy? T, if you're in the room. Leo rising needs to be on a stage, okay? You need to be seen. You said, what are some signs or transits that point to an upcoming career change? Good transits. Okay, here's the thing. Like, I don't really look at transits for people. Like, I don't do predictive readings. Like, sometimes I'll answer when you guys ask, but I like to believe that there's free will. You said that's why, exactly. It took me so long to figure out what was it in my chart that was making me talk so fast. It took me so long. I was looking and I'm like, what is it? And then I finally realized, I think, at least my theory is it's the Mercury-Uranus aspect that makes me talk super, super fast. You said September eclipse hit your 4th house, 10th house. Yeah, it always hits the 2 energies is basically what that is. You said you agree with free will, right? Like, I like to believe that there's free will. Astrology is good to know, so you don't do certain things that might be to your detriment. Do you know what I mean? But yeah. Thank you, Esperanza. Oh my gosh, you're so awesome. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely this. I do have a few 3rd house placements as well taking place, so it could be that too. It's a lot. Like, my chart is a lot of crown chakra activity, so the talking is a good outlet, okay? Because I'm sure when I'm doing the lives, you guys, like, I say to you guys, I was thinking about this today. I was thinking, right? So I come here and then I tell you guys everything that I think about. You said you love the talk speed, you keep up and you feel, exactly. That's the thing, like, this is the way that I see it. It's a frequency thing, right? So you either resonate with it or you don't. Here's the thing, like, I try to talk slower in my videos, but I can't talk slower like when I would record the regular videos. Like, they're maybe a little bit slower than like the early ones that I used to do. The ones that I like currently have, like, they're maybe a little bit like slower, right? But the thing is, like, I lose my train of thought because there's so much, like, while I'm saying something, I'm already thinking about the next thing, okay? And there's so much to say always, okay? And who knows, maybe it's lifetimes where I wasn't able to speak, right? So it's like, it's all coming out now. You said, what about empty houses? Empty houses are usually something you mastered in a previous lifetime is basically what that is. You said, oh my gosh, you too. You have Uranus aspecting Mercury. Yes, you think, and you talk too quickly. Exactly. And you think, especially when people are, exactly, are passionate about the topic. Yeah, exactly. It's basically this. And your vibe attracts your tribe. Oh my gosh, thank you for the super chat, Eric. You're so awesome. You said it's very concise and to the point. Other people on YouTube, yeah, I can't, like, yeah. And then you said you love the clarity and conciseness. That's the thing. Like, even when I first started this channel, I was like, you know, I was thinking to myself and I was like, okay, the video, like, whatever video that I did, I was like, this feels kind of short, but I'm like, I don't have anything else to say. And I'm not gonna fluff up the video with like going on this whole like fairy, like, unicorn expedition. Like, I don't really need to do that. I'm always kind of like, let's get to the point. Okay, it means this. And that's it. That's literally what it is. There's nothing else there. Some people like try to, like, even in general, like with anything, when people are trying to explain things, they're trying to teach you the facts and they're trying to teach you this and it originated here. And if nobody asked, there's no point in sharing that. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, give me the information. Now on top of that, you guys, I literally watch everything on 2 times speed, right? So I'm so happy that that feature exists. Like, God bless technology. It's basically what that is. Thanks, you guys. You guys are so awesome. You said, literally, oh my gosh, sometimes, you guys, I put people on 2 times speed and I have to check and I'm like, is this really 2 times speed? Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, sometimes people on 2 times sound like 1 times. And I'm like, okay, like, I need something faster, right? So it just is what it is. And it's interesting because it's like, sometimes when people are taking so long to get the thought out, I don't know, maybe this is a psychic thing because a lot of the time, even like if I'm talking to someone and they're taking forever to get the sentence out, I like already know what they're gonna say. So I'm just kind of like in my head, obviously, I'm like, okay, like, can we get to the point? Like, what is happening with this conversation right now? I'm glad you found my page too. Oh my gosh, you guys are so funny. Yay, I'm glad you guys are here. Yes, your vibe attracts your tribe. You guys are so awesome. This is why, okay, this is why, guys, you have to be like true to yourselves. And you know what's so interesting? Another thing that happened in the earlier like part of my channel was like I try to like make the speed of the videos shorter, like edit it to be not shorter, but like less fast. I try to make it less fast, right? And what ended up happening was when I saved the video, like the words weren't matching up with the speed. And then that was just like a sign from the angels or whatever way, shape, or form you guys want to look at it, right? I was like, honestly, whatever. The people who resonate are going to resonate. And if you don't resonate with it, there's so many other people that you can go and listen to. Like, you know what I mean? Let's see. You said you always need the words at a normal speed or even slower. You said maybe it's Mercury and Taurus. Yeah, and again, you have the settings button, so you can click on the settings button and you can go to the slower speed. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you, Mike. Oh my gosh, you guys are so awesome. Thank you for the super chats. You guys are so great. Yes, absolutely. Exactly, just be yourself. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. And the thing is, even if I wanted to, I literally cannot talk slower. Like I can't, because there's just so much. And you know what's so funny? Okay, so I speak 3 languages, okay? I speak 3 languages, and my mother tongue, okay? So with my grandparents, I would speak that language, right? And I think because, okay, so that's my mother tongue, but I started speaking English around the age of 4, right? And then I think because I started speaking English, but here's the thing, like with my family, I always spoke my mother tongue, right? So it's like, it's interesting because my family back home always says that I have an accent, like I have an English accent when I speak my mother tongue, which is interesting, right? Because it's like, that was the first language that I learned. But anyways, right? So they say I have an English accent. So it's interesting because my grandpa, okay, he was so funny because back in the day, so I guess because I speak fast, right? And also there's like the accent too when I would speak like my mother tongue as well. Okay, so basically what he would be like, he'd be like, you're so nice to look at, but I have no idea what you just said. So we'd always have like a translation person basically like translating for him, like, you know, saying what I was like saying. You said, oh my gosh, you said that sounded so funny when I slowed down for a second. Interesting. You said, okay, so let me see what you guys were saying up here. You said all quantum downloads your process. Yeah, it's probably that. Because another thing too, when I'm talking, for me, I'm elevating the frequency, right? Like that's the way that I see it. So it's like the frequency is going higher. So I think it's like happening even faster, right? So it's this. Okay, you said talk about Saturn and how to beat Saturn to get to Jupiter. How to beat Saturn. You can't really beat Saturn. You have to master Saturn, okay? That's the thing with Saturn. The more you resist it, the longer it's going to take is basically what that is, okay? I know, it's so funny. He was so precious. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? You said Mercury and Gemini. A lot of people would ask me if I'm a Gemini. A lot of people would be like, are you a Gemini? Are you, sometimes I would get Aries too, Mercury and Aries, but no, my Mercury's in Libra, but I think it's that Uranus aspect that makes it go like super fast, super speedy quick. And another thing, I told some of you guys in the previous live, I'm not sure if you guys have watched one of my previous lives, so maybe you guys are new here, but another thing that I told you guys was in my grade 7 notebook, okay, or not notebook, yearbook, okay, and the grade 7 yearbook that we had, I guess we had to write a blurb, and I have to find this book, but it's like in a box somewhere. And in the blurb, again, you know, when you like graduate or whatever, the end of the year, you have to write something like whatever. So what I wrote was like, I can speak so fast, I can make your head go whoosh. So it's like, I have always spoken so fast. And you know what's also interesting? I also used to work in a call center. My whole life has just been like throw chakra galore, okay? So I used to work in a call center. And it's like, that was one thing that my managers would always say. They'd be like, you talk too fast. So it's just been a thing my entire life is basically what that is. But it is what it is. My sun sign, I'm not a Gemini. No, I'm a Libra. I'm a Libra sun and rising. Yeah, the ability to switch topics, but I'm always able to go back. Have you guys noticed? I used to teach in person, and that's what like the people that I would teach would say the same thing. They'd be like, it's so interesting because I'll go off topic, but I'll go back to what I was saying originally. Because there's like the story, and then there's a side tangent that's connected to it, right? So it's like I go back to what I was like originally saying, right? Because it's like there's a mental note, like, okay, we need to get back here. I'm talking about this, but we need to go back to this. You said briefly talked about significance of Mars and Gemini. Yeah, you remember. Inside joke with myself. And you know what's so funny? Okay, literally they listen to everything through the phones, you guys, because I said that to you guys, right? That it's the inside joke that I have with myself. And then that popped up as like a meme on my Instagram like feed. I'm like, literally, like everything is just like connected. Like you say one thing or you like search one thing and it like pops up on another one of the social media platforms. What does squares to Jupiter mean? You have Jupiter in the 5th house squaring. Okay, Jupiter in, yeah, exactly, T. They really, really are in all the realms, whether it's through the phones, whether it's on the astral. Thank you, you guys are awesome. Okay, squares to Jupiter. You have Jupiter in the 5th, and then Leo squaring Pluto in the 8th, Scorpio. Okay, hold on. You said, what does squares to Jupiter mean? And then you said you have Jupiter and then squaring Pluto. And then is Jupiter also squaring your moon? Good. Oh my gosh, yeah, totally. Okay, guys, I'm gonna sign off. So I'll be back next time. If I didn't get to your question, I'll get to your question next time, okay? I always open up the live about an hour before I'm gonna go live. So if you guys have a question, feel free to type it. If you guys are watching the live replay and you're not able to catch the live, feel free to type it in the chat, because the chat is open when I put the live pending energy, okay? Or like the scheduled live, okay? Thanks for being here. Thank you for your questions, your likes, your shares, your subscribes. Thank you for being on the same page. You guys are awesome. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day or evening, wherever you guys are. Bye.